Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, football continues its winning ways with another close victory.
And Indiana basketball is set to return with Media Day. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Blake Spillers.
And I'm Adam Oppenheim.
Adam, tell me you caught that overtime thriller on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a super exciting game, still in position for the college football playoff. Indiana football won in an overtime thriller on Saturday, defeating Western Kentucky 33-30. The team now improves to 3-0 on the season and passes their win total from a year ago. Our reporter Blake Spillers has more on how the Hoosiers keep finding ways to win games.
The Indiana Hoosiers pulled out an exciting 33-30 win over Western Kentucky on Friday afternoon. The game was far from perfect though, as IU missed some tackles and also dropped some passes.
I think we have to continue to tackle better. I felt like we got, they get you in space. I get that. I talked about, before the game that tackling was going to be big because of the way they make you play. And then stopping the run, which we, did up to halftime. And then at the second half, the game comes longer. One of those was a complete misfit by one of our backers that has to make that play. It goes from either a 1 or 2 yard gain to a 50-yard run, which is inexcusable. So, but that to me would be the big deal. And then I think offensively, we can't drop the ball. We got a lot of talented receivers. I don't want to see those drops. They're too huge.
After dominating on the ground a week ago, the Hoosiers went back to the air raid as Connor Bazelak threw for 364 yards and 2 touchdowns, but none bigger than the touchdown to Cam Camper to bring the Hoosiers within 2 with under a minute left. On the very next play, Bazelak hit Donovan McCauley to tie the game up with the 2-point conversion.
All we working obviously, it was no days where we were just comfortable, where we felt good, but we figured out how to get through dominate the work and not just get through it, and that's the big thing.
The WKU offense dominated all game, totaling over 545 yards, scorching the IU defense all day.
I thought we had some good answers, had some bad fits on a couple of those long runs. So, I just really disappointed, to be honest with you. That's probably the most disappointing thing. They're going to get some, but I will say this is what I told you guys all week long, guys. They're going to get some yards. Just keep from scoring touchdowns. Make them kick field goals.
But Indiana came up with some big stops when it mattered most, forcing 2 missed field goals at the end of the fourth quarter, and with one being blocked in overtime. Charles Campbell topped off the Hoosiers' huge second-half comeback with a game-winning 51-yard field goal in overtime to get the Hoosiers to 3-0 on the season. The Hoosiers will travel to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats next Saturday at either 3:30 or 4, looking to improve to 4-0 on the season. From Bloomington, I'm Blake Spillers for IUS TV Sports.
The team will travel to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats this Saturday for their first road game of the year. Follow along with our football beat reporter team for all things IU football.
The Indiana men's soccer team had a tough weekend, falling to Ohio State 2-1. Ohio State's Xavier Green got the Buckeyes on the board first, scoring in the first 20 minutes. His goal was then followed by Luciano Petrotas' goal in the last minute of the first half. In the second half, Herbert Endely took it all the way by himself to get the Hoosiers on the board. However, even with a couple more chances, the Hoosiers just couldn't get back in the game. Indiana will look to get back on track in Big Ten play this Friday as they take on the Michigan State Spartans right here in Bloomington. Kickoff is set for 7:30, and be sure to follow along with beat reporters Kara Adams, Amanda Foster, and Aiden Mattel.
Indiana volleyball competed in Bowling Green last weekend in the Western Kentucky Invitational. In their first game, the Hoosiers took down the Texas A&M Aggies 3-1. Morgan Geddes posted a career-high 15 kills in the game. Game 2 saw the Hoosiers sweep Tennessee Tech in 3 sets. Coach Steve Aird saw his team hit .438 in hitting efficiency, the highest under his tenure at IU. The Hoosiers couldn't sweep the Invitational as they dropped the last match to number 21 ranked Western Kentucky, losing 3-1. Next up, the team travels to University Park tomorrow to take on 9th ranked Penn State in their Big Ten opener. Follow along with Andy Mazer, Gabe Fencer, Spencer Hoffman, and Michael Livingston for all things Indiana volleyball.
Indiana field hockey rode into its toughest matchup of the season with a 5-game win streak and hopes of extending it. The Hoosiers traveled to Iowa City on Friday to face the 5th-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. They gave up 2 early goals in the first period and struggled to produce offense. Iowa added 2 more goals in the third period, but Indiana finally got on the board in the fourth as Jemima Cookson scored her 6th goal of the season. However, it wasn't enough and the Hoosiers lost 5-1. Indiana was back in Bloomington on Sunday to host the Longwood Lancers. The game started slow with a scoreless first half, but the Hoosiers prevailed as Sydney Keld scored 2 goals in the second half for a 2-0 Indiana win. The Hoosiers have another tough opponent tomorrow as they travel to Louisville to face the 4th-ranked Cardinals. And then they are back at home on Sunday to face Miami of Ohio.
The Indiana cross-country teams were back at it this past Friday hosting the Coaching Tree Invitational. The meet features schools with connections to the 53-year career of IU head coach Ron Helmer. The women's team kicked off the day with a 6K race, placing 3rd as a team, with 9 Hoosiers finishing with personal bests. Leading the pack was with the 9th place finish was Sarah Schmidt with a time of 20 minutes and 29 seconds. Other top finishers include Maddie Dalton and Mariah Worthy. The men's team continued the day with an 8K race, placing 5th overall as a team, with 5 Hoosiers recording personal bests. On top for Indiana was Jake Gebhardt, who barely missed the top 10 with a time of 24 minutes and 4 seconds. Other good performances came from Keelan Grant and Gabriel Sanchez.
I thought our women beat everybody they had a chance to beat, executed a race plan really, really well. They were patient, they were together, they finished really strong. And I think our guys probably struggled to do that, which affected the end result significantly.
The Hoosiers are back in action on September 30th in Pennsylvania for the Paul Short Invite. Coming up after the break, we have more on women's soccer and more.
And our Evan Kamikow joins us live from Assembly Hall. Evan, basketball expectations are sky high this year as they returned a lot of their starters and added 2 5-star players to this roster.
Yeah, Blake, you're absolutely right. Soccer and football step aside. It's basketball season. Indiana runs on basketball. I'll be live shortly here at Assembly Hall prior to Media Day coming up right after the break.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night.
With the 2022 Indiana basketball season gearing up with Media Day today, our Evan Kamikow joins us live from Assembly Hall. With Media Day set to begin at 3 p.m., what can you tell us about this upcoming season and today's events?
Blake, I am here live from Assembly Hall just a few hours before Media Day starts. Coach Woodson and Coach Terry Moran will both be able for media availability at 3 o'clock. You can follow along with all of our IUSC reporters for updates on that. Players will be allowed to be on court talking to media at 4. We'll have a ton of coverage from the event later today. A lot of people are in town because this team has such high expectations, whether that's the men or the women. The women are coming off runners-up in the Big Ten tournament, a deep run in the NCAA tournament. And the men, we all know their story. Won the first 4 game, had to fly out to Portland, got knocked off by number 5 St. Mary's in the round of 64. But both of the teams have added a lot of talent. The women have added Sydney Parrish, specifically coming from Oregon. She's an Indiana native, a look to make a instant impact. In the men, you're adding freshmen in Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino, 2 top 20 prospects, hoping to give this team a boost in the perimeter as well as down low. Even though you return Trace Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson, you're still going to need help because both of those guys are going to be gone after this season. Reporting from Assembly Hall, Evan Kamikow, IUSTV Sports.
Thanks, Evan. Be sure to follow along with Evan, Hank, Joseph, and Josh Bodie for all IU men's basketball updates, and with Brianna Baylog, Audrey Hausberger, and Alex Hines for the women's team.
Indiana women's soccer team had their first Big Ten matchup of the season against number 8 ranked Penn State. Our women's soccer beat reporter Kelsey Dennehy has more on the game.
I'm here at Bill Armstrong Stadium where the Indiana women's soccer team began Big Ten conference play against the number 8 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. The Lions and the Hoosiers ended the game in a 0-0 draw. A standout, as always, for the Hoosiers was goalkeeper Jamie Gerstenberg, who made plenty of key saves to keep the Hoosiers in this 0-0 draw. However, she had a ton of help from freshman defender Natasha Kim, who was picking off plays from the Nittany Lions left and right and playing extremely aggressive in front of her goalkeeper to help keep those balls out of the net.
She made a couple of good saves. I thought the defense was much better. The whole team, the way we set up, especially first half, was much better than we have. We relied a little bit less on Jamie, but she still made a couple, I think, key saves to keep us in the game against a good team like this. So,
Indiana had a couple of key chances in their offensive zone, led by forward Camille Ham, who championed that aggressive energy and mindset that was being held in the defensive end and brought it to the forwards, who were able to develop quite a few chances for the Hoosiers.
I'm so impressed with that team and how they, we can come up with something, but they execute it, and they executed it to the T, especially first half today.
Indiana will travel to Minnesota for a nighttime kickoff at 7 p.m. against the University of Minnesota. Make sure to stay tuned at IUS TV Sports for all of your women's soccer updates. From Bill Armstrong Stadium, I'm Kelsey Dennehy, IUS TV Sports.
The Hoosiers will travel to the University of Minnesota for a 7 p.m. kickoff tomorrow night. Follow along with Kelsey Dennehy, Josie Broyles, and Ryan Costello for all things IU women's soccer.
Now joining us in studio for the Olympic sprint recaps is IUS TV sports reporter Gabe Fenster. Gabe?
Thanks, Blake and Adam. The Indiana men's golf team finished 12th overall at the Fighting Illini Invitational at the Olympia Fields Country Club this past Sunday. Drew Salyers was the highest-ranked Hoosier, earning a top 20 finish after shooting a 2-1-4. Salyers shot a 71 in his final round, including 3 birdies. Indiana will play at the Winnan Memorial Classic hosted by Northwestern at the Evanston Country Club in Stoke, Illinois. These matchups will begin September 26th and go throughout the week. Moving on to the women's golf. Indiana finished in the last place at the Badger Invitational out of 13 teams. Columbia graduate transfer Alexis Florio finished tied for 6th with a total score of 2 under par. This score was also 3rd amongst Big Ten golfers in the field. Junior Dominika Berdova out of the Czech Republic finished in the top 10 as well, tying for 9th. The transfer out of Gardner-Webb shot a stellar 67 in the second round to come back after a 79 in round 1. IU will have a chance to build on this week's performance next week when they head to Virginia Beach to compete in the Evie Odom Invitational hosted by Old Dominion. Next up, the men's tennis team kicked off their fall season at the Duke Bonk Invitational last Friday. The Hoosiers were represented by senior Patrick Fletchell, juniors Michael Andre, Ilya Tripospolsky, and freshman Ikench Kumar. Andre and Kumar won the doubles B-draw consolation after a victory against a team from Yale. Andre followed this up with 3 wins for a 5th-place finish in the single A's draw. Kumar also found success by winning the single C draw consolation. The Hoosiers will be back in action at Michigan State for the Spartans dual invite on September 30th. And finally, on Monday, the swim and dive teams released their official schedules for the 2022-2023 season. The men's team will try to defend their Big Ten championship title, while the women's team will look for another top 3 Big Ten finish. The biggest non-conference matchup will be when IU travels to Austin, Texas to take on the Aggies and the Longhorns in a tri-meet. The Texas men's team won the NCAA championship in 2021, and the women's team earned runner-up at NCAA's last season. The Hoosiers will also host Michigan in January, which is a battle between 2 of the top 10 Big Ten programs. Bloomington also gets the honor of hosting the NCAA Zone C Diving Championships in Councilman Billingsley Aquatic Center. That's all for our first edition of the Olympic Sprint Recaps. Blake, Adam, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Gabe. And that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUS TV Sports to keep up with all the latest IU sports news. For our production crew behind us, I'm Adam Oppenheim.
And I'm Blake Spillers. We'll see you next week.